Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, I love you guys.
This is the light in the
That's
dark.
far.
And how long have we known each other now? I think it's been
5 years.
I think
So
it's 5 years.
once I came in, I guess when the group was complete. It was 5 years ago. When
the cherry on
piece
top.
of
Thank
the
you, Hunter,
puzzle-
for bringing
Right.
us together.
Exactly. And I do feel like our guys are in the room with us. We've got some candles lit here with their initials on it. You know, my husband's name is Hunter.
Frank.
Keira's is Frank.
Toby.
Holly's is Toby.
Mine is Oliver.
Yes. And Lacey is Oliver. So we feel like they're in the room with us as well, which may be why it's so hot in here.
It is
It's
a little hot.
toasty.
When I was thinking about what the slogan or the motto or whatever would be for this, I kept coming back to survive and thrive because that is what we're doing.
And after my husband's death, I felt super alone. I didn't know anyone who had lost their husband young. And when Lacey approached me, it was just like, it was literally like that image of the life raft being like the life ring being thrown out in the ocean. No one really understands what it's like until they've been through it. And you can have people that love you and friends from childhood that want to support you. But until you get with people that have been through exactly what you've been through, there's just no real understanding there. And that, I think, is what, you know, we're trying to offer other people. It's just like, you're not alone. We've been through it. We understand it. And I don't think it's, you know, normalized in society. Young
Yes.
widows, we're brushed aside. We're swept under the rug. Or, you know, hurry up and get married again. Move on with your life. Get over it. And I don't think people are like looking at, you know, what that really means.
Long term.
Yeah, what does that mean for someone that's gone through it? What does that mean for their family dynamic? What does that mean for their kids? What does that mean for their friendships? The whole 9 yards. And so
That's why it was hard when Oliver died. I didn't know any young widows. There weren't any. Until you guys came along, I didn't have anybody to relate to. And so it was very lonely. And the only other single people I had were divorced. And we
not
all
the
know
same.
that it's just not the same. I went to a grief group, and unfortunately, the grief group was not helpful because most of them in there were, you know, 70s, 80s. So, and one even said, "You're young enough to find someone else." Well, that was the wrong thing to say to me, and probably to you three too.
Yeah, I think we've all heard that.
Yeah.
And I imagine we'll get asked, how did we meet? And a lot of people meet through grief group, but none of us really met our people through that.
Lacey started it off because unfortunately she has been a widow the longest amount of time.
But I'm
And
still not old, just so you know.
no, I like to say we're not your grandma's widow, but then Kira's like, that makes no sense.
I mean, it's just my background in publishing.
And grandma?
I
Oh.
mean, not in my background in grandma.
My grandma background.
We're not your typical widow.
No, I think so.
Exactly.
It did. Lacey was on her own for a while, and she reached out to me. I mean, horrible way that she lost her husband, just like mine, in their prime, amazing guys that we were like madly in love with. And we just had so much in common. And unlike other people that had supported me, who I am so grateful to, she was the first one I connected with that really understood what I was going through. And that was huge for me. It was absolutely huge. And it still is. And so when, unfortunately, I heard about Holly, someone reached out to me.
But how did
But
you
I
and
had already
Holly
met-
meet?
I'd met you.
Yeah, we met through a girl that I used to work with.
Right. So what happens, and if you're a widow, you probably know this already, and even anyone dealing with grief or any situation, you try to connect people that are having similar,
Yeah.
you know, experiences. And I think that our friend groups all recognized that they couldn't understand, they couldn't necessarily help us. So they started helping connect us. And thankfully, we all live in the same town and we could have that because, again, like I said before, a lot of people don't have the opportunity. They're looking for their young widow group. We had just moved here when my husband died, and I didn't have my people with me. And the counselor at my child's middle school,
Who I was friends with.
but you also, your kid was at the same middle school,
Right.
but you were friends with the counselor. And she reached out to me and she was like, there's another mother who's gone through the same thing. I would love to connect you. And I got Holly's phone number and I called like immediately that day. And I was like, hey, so my husband's dead. And I know your husband's dead.
It
And
had been 5 months.
yeah, it had not been a very long time. I say the words dead, died. I don't pussyfoot around it.
I hate the word passed away.
Yeah. Oh, girl. What did he pass?
What? Yeah. What?
Not
did
a
he pass?
test, not his
gas.
expiration date. No.
Exactly.
All the regular words that people use because they're uncomfortable with
Right.
that, I don't like. I just say dead, died. So I'm sure Holly was like, oh my God. But I was like,
No,
my husband's
well,
dead.
I was asked to help you.
Yes, you
And
were
I was
you were
like,
told
I'm
that I
not
was going to be
sure how
calling you.
much help I'll be, but sure. And you called me, and I was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to look like, but I'll show up.
And then we went to coffee and
And then we
And
met
here
you
we
at,
are.
at
and then
Jeffrey's.
Valentine's Day, we all got to, yeah, I like met her. I can't remember what month it was, but Hunter died in October. And
When you and I had lunch, I felt like you were still in shock. And I had given it the summer because people
so
reached
when
out
did
to me
in
the spring.
So
I-
when did you and Holly meet?
So people reached out to me in the spring when the accident happened, which was on the same road as our accident.
Oh, I did not know that.
And I mean, I just loved your energy. You're way more low key than I am. Like I'm the extrovert, you're
Maybe
the
a
introvert.
little bit.
But you just were just a great person, and I was super excited to just try to help you in any way that I could. You were definitely just full of questions, and I didn't have great answers for all of it because I was kind of still figuring it out for myself.
I think you did. And I think you showed up at the right time. I mean, I think everybody showed up at the right time. But
Yeah.
I remember talking about, what do I do for Christmas? And I was like,
And
I
I was
think I
like,
want to
travel.
just leave town. And
And
you're
you're
like,
like-
leave town.
You're like, I think I want to plan a trip. Absolutely plan a trip. Get the F out of Dodge.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I did too.
So,
It's just not fun being in your house. That first Christmas.
no.
I remember very vividly thinking to myself, I want to know what this looks like a year from now, 2 years from now, 10 years from now. And I want to find the people that are doing it the way I hope I will do it, because I did not want this horrible tragedy to be in vain. I wanted to learn something from it. I wanted to grow from it. And I didn't want it to destroy me. And it could easily do that. And I think the three of you are the type of widows that I wanted to be. And I'm so grateful that I have you. And I'm so grateful that now we are going to introduce ourselves to hopefully other widows and show them what this looks like and how you can not only survive, but thrive.
I hated that how we met, but I love that I had people who got it.
Yes.
Because up until that time, the only person that I had that got it was the therapist. And I thought that was kind of pathetic, especially when it has to do with your family. They see you a certain way as a person who handles everything. Well, it's hard to handle things when something like that happens to you and it changes everything. So I became different and they didn't respond to it well.
So I think for me, it was about finding myself again
Mhm.
because, you get married and then suddenly it's like Keira and Frank, Keira and Frank. Then you have
Mhm.
kids and then it's the kids and the family and you're defined by being parents. Your identity is so wrapped up in
A couple.
your marriage,
Mhm.
your kids, your family unit. And then suddenly that whole thing is just blown apart and you're kind of falling in space and you're still a mother. I mean, for me, I was always a mother first and foremost. But where was I without Frank? Where was I, as a person? I had deferred my career for his. I was raising kids. I did lose myself.
Mhm.
And I was lost. And it took time to, rediscover. And
Or redefine.
Right.
yeah.
So one last thing. I think it would be great if we gave one tip, one thing that you reached for. What was one thing that you did? Something, if a widow came to you today and said, I don't know how to get through the day. Like what did you do?
Relied on my friends.
Therapy.
Say it again.
Spin.
Therapy, but
Spin.
but a good therapist. Sometimes you have to figure out who that is.
I had to give myself grace when
Mm.
I like snapped at the kids or wasn't handling or wasn't coping. I just had to be kind to myself.
It's a good one.
I would say feel the feelings. Everyone's so afraid of the feelings, but they're not going to go away until you feel them and then let them go. So if that means screaming in your car or like me, crying in the closet, trying to stifle it just fucking keeps it there longer.
One of my son's therapists said, "You got to feel it to heal it."
I love
Yeah.
that.
True. It's
I cried in the
true.
closet too because I didn't want the kids to see
Oh, I
with you with the
I did the
bathtub.
same thing.
I didn't want the kids to
Yeah.
see me falling apart.
And then my mom
And
lived
Frank's
with me.
ashes were in there. So
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I
Sorry,
find
Tyler.
interesting is that the worst emotion was anger. That's the most repelling. I always say if someone's screaming on the outside, imagine how they feel on the inside.
Mm.
But yet, when you're a widow, the one thing nobody talks about, they see you sad and you're crying. But I felt rage.
That is so interesting that you say that because I follow I'm going to get her name wrong. Dr. Edith Inger. She was a Holocaust survivor and she talks a lot about grief and
Mhm.
and surviving trauma. And one of the things that she says is there will be rage.
Oh,
Don't deny it. That is part of the process and it is okay and we need to normalize it. It doesn't mean you take it out on other people. It means you go into in your car and scream and, get angry or you punch pillows or whatever it is that you can do, go to boxing.
But imagine this though, you're telling when you're I would go to friends and I would just be angry. I wasn't yelling at them. I was just angry about my life.
Mhm.
But I found that there were some friendships that I lost as a result of it because they couldn't handle the anger. I remember hearing one friend said it was too much for her. And
Mm.
so I'm supposed to minimize the pain. I mean, rage is a huge part of it.
Mm.
And to deny that means you are stifling it or it's going to come out in other ways.
That's another great thing about having widow friends is that we understand that and are not uncomfortable in any of the feelings. Most people are uncomfortable with uncomfortableness.
Yes.
So I find myself, and I'm sure you guys have felt this too, of toning it down. Or look, when people say, I'm sorry for your loss, what's your first response? It's okay. Thank you. No,
Mhm.
it's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
You know,
Putting them at
We're
ease.
good.
Mhm.
Putting
It's gonna
them
be
at
okay.
ease. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
why they're like, oh, where's your husband? He's dead. Let's all deal with
But
it.
I've
Yeah.
I've learned to say this though. It was funny. Obviously I've had a long time to think about it and I didn't handle it the way that I wanted to in those first years. And I was kind of mad at myself because I felt like I was minimizing my pain to make them comfortable when the reality is I wanted to say it's awful. It sucks. And not only sucks is that I'm angry.
Mhm.
I wasn't just sad. I was angry for what he was missing, what my child was missing, and what I was missing. And I had the hardest time. I don't know about you guys. I think we've talked about this. I had the hardest time for what I was missing. I felt sorrier for my son. I felt sorrier for my husband. And the reason I couldn't deal with my own because it meant dealing with my own.
Mm.
But uh,
Yeah, that's gonna have
I'm
to be
still
it.
dealing with my own. I always put, what Frank is missing out on and what the kids have missed out
easier.
on. I never think about me. And I'm working on that even now in therapy.
because it's
The
easier.
anger, where do you go with the anger? What do you do with it?
It's
How
not
are
pretty.
we allowed to live in that state?
It's never going. You're not supposed to stay in it, but the idea is that when you feel a feeling fully, then it naturally goes through you and you can release it. Now, it's up to us. We can hold on to it, just like we try to hold on to the good stuff, we hold on to the bad stuff. But the idea, the way things are supposed to naturally flow is it's like a wave on the beach. it comes in, it washes over you, and then it goes out. So that's anger, that's sadness, that's joy, that's every feeling.
But sometimes it like instead of getting angry with the person asking, I've decided to say, I'm going to stop you right there. Because someone said something like when they were going through a divorce, they said, I know it's not a death. And I
Mm.
said, I'm going to stop you right there. There is no need to compare. Pain is pain, grief is grief. I'm going to respect yours if you'll respect mine. And whatever feeling you're feeling, I'm happy to sit with you in it. And so I hope, and I think that's what we've done for each other. I'm okay with someone calling and just unleashing a beast if they needed to. It's not at me. Don't take it personally. It's not about you.
Yeah.
It's actually about them and their feelings. If you can learn, I wish people could learn to not make it about themselves if someone
Well,
else is in pain.
yes, and I love what you said about I will sit with you in it, and because that's all we want. You can't make it go away.
No.
Nothing you say is going to make it better, but knowing that we're not alone in it, I'm going to sit with you in this and you're safe to feel whatever you need to feel. That is the gift. That is the gift. We are so smart.
It only took me 11 years to figure
I
it
know.
out.
Took me
And-
a few years as well.
And it takes a group
And a
like
village.
this. It
No.
takes a village
Mhm.
in every way. It takes a village.
At least we
So,
have one.
We do. And
We
now
hope
we're
that
inviting.
they will join us too.
Yes, we're inviting you into our village.
And just to inspire people to find other widows in their community. I mean, I guess if you're feeling alone, if you've lost your husband, try to connect, try to find out who else might be in your community going through the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can just form a
Call
group like
your
we did.
school, call your church, call a grief support group.
My
Eve-
Healing, well, it's now the Grief Center and the Christie Center. They're two great places
In
that
Austin.
in Austin that deal with grief. And that's not just death, it's also divorce, it's also loss of a child, a husband, another family member. So those are great organizations that I know about.
Agreed. All right. We hope you'll come back and spend more time with us. We love you. We understand you. And we want to help. We can be your group. We can be your people. We can't bring your person back, but we can help you navigate
And bring yourself back.
your new normal. Yeah. We are always available to you through Instagram. You can go there at Every Widow Thing. There's going to be content, inspiration there. So please find us and like us. And if you have any questions, DM us because we would love to help you in that way as well. Every Widow Thing.
I feel like we glossed over Jeffries.
Meeting Whitney for the first time.
That was our first.
Oh, I can
all
say
four
what
of
I
us.
thought, Whitney.
We need to.
I'll
we
be
definitely
honest.
Another
need to.
episode. We're just trying to get people.
We definitely
get
need to
people-
roll
You
back
gotta
to when we
hang
met.
on
When
for
we
the-
met
will.
you.
When we met with when
No,
the
that-
four of us first got together.